In the opening of The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel sets the stage by contrasting two real-life figures: Ronald Read, a modest janitor who amassed an $8 million fortune through quiet, consistent investing, and Richard Fuscone, a high-powered executive who lost everything in the 2008 financial crisis due to over-leveraged risks. This juxtaposition isn't just anecdotal. It underscores Housel's core premise that financial success is more about behavior than intellect or strategy. He argues that our relationship with money is deeply personal, shaped by unique life experiences that make seemingly irrational choices feel perfectly logical. For instance, someone who grew up during the Great Depression might hoard cash out of fear, while a millennial raised in a booming economy might embrace high-risk investments with optimism. These backgrounds aren't excuses, but explanations, revealing how emotions like fear, greed, and hope influence decisions far more than spreadsheets or market analyses. Housel invites readers to suspend judgment, recognizing that no one's financial craziness is truly mad. It's a product of their worldview, honed by history and circumstance. This empathy fosters self-reflection, urging us to question our own biases before critiquing others. As the chapter unfolds, it becomes clear that understanding this psychological foundation is key to navigating wealth's complexities, turning abstract advice into relatable human stories. Delving deeper, Housel explores how generational and cultural contexts mold money mindsets, using historical examples to illustrate his point. He discusses how post-World War II prosperity bred a generation of risk-takers, while earlier eras of scarcity produced savers who viewed debt as a mortal sin. This isn't about right or wrong, it's about rationality within one's bubble. Consider the investor who panics during a market dip because their parents lost everything in a crash. Their caution isn't folly, but survival instinct. Conversely, a tech entrepreneur betting big on startups might seem reckless, but if they've only known growth, it's sensible. Housel weaves in psychological insights, like how confirmation bias reinforces these views, making us cling to familiar narratives even when data contradicts them. He emphasizes that financial education often fails because it ignores this emotional layer, treating people as rational actors when we're all storytellers at heart. By humanizing these differences, the chapter builds emotional continuity, showing how ignoring personal history leads to repeated mistakes, like overspending or underinvesting. It's a call to humility, reminding us that our smart choices might look foolish to someone with a different past. Ultimately, this introduction lays the philosophical groundwork for the book, promising a journey beyond tactics into the soul of money management. Housel's tone is warm and non-judgmental, like a wise friend sharing insights over coffee, encouraging readers to map their own money stories. Themes of empathy and self-awareness emerge subtly, connecting to real-life regrets where clashing worldviews strain relationships or derail plans. By the end, you're left pondering your own craziness, perhaps that impulse buy or aversion to stocks, and how acknowledging it can lead to wiser paths. This sets up the rest of the book as an exploration of universal truths hidden in personal quirks, where growth comes not from formulas, but from understanding the human heart.
Chapter 1. No One's Crazy. Housel begins Chapter 1 by reinforcing the idea that financial behaviors, no matter how odd they appear, stem from rational responses to individual experiences. He expands on the introduction's contrasts, diving into how economic eras imprint lasting attitudes. For example, those who witnessed hyperinflation might shun investments, preferring cash under the mattress, while others, from stable times, chase high returns without fear. This chapter humanizes these choices through anecdotes like the frugal millionaire who lived like a pauper because childhood poverty scarred them deeply. Housel draws on psychology, explaining how our brains wire for pattern recognition based on past events, making us blind to alternative realities. He argues that dismissing others as crazy blinds us to our own blind spots, fostering division rather than learning. Instead, Curiosity about differing views can reveal hidden wisdom, like why some cultures prioritize community savings over individual wealth. The emotional depth here lies in the vulnerability exposed, admitting that our money habits are emotional defenses, not just logical plans. As narratives build, suspense grows around how these ingrained beliefs clash with modern financial advice, often leading to frustration or failure. Further in, Housel examines cross-cultural and historical variances, using stories from different countries to show money's universal yet subjective nature. In Japan, post-bubble caution leads to ultra-conservative saving, while in America, optimism fuels entrepreneurial risks. Characters aren't named but evoked vividly. The immigrant who builds wealth through multiple jobs, driven by instability back home, versus the trust fund kid who gambles it away, never knowing want. Motivations tie to fears, loss, status, regret, and inner struggles manifest as compulsive behaviors or avoidance. Growth occurs when individuals confront these roots, perhaps through therapy or reflection, transforming rigid habits into flexible strategies. Housel subtly reveals symbolism, money as a mirror of unresolved emotions, where unchecked biases symbolize broader life imbalances. Connecting to themes of truth and redemption, he shows how acknowledging this craziness paves the way for empathy in relationships, like couples negotiating budgets from divergent backgrounds. The chapter's pacing builds emotional highs of recognition and lows of self-doubt, compelling readers to audit their own stories. By chapter's close, Housel ties it back to practical implications, urging a shift from judgment to understanding in financial planning. This isn't academic, it's cinematic, with life stories unfolding like mini-dramas that highlight turning points, such as a crisis forcing reevaluation. The moral emerges organically. True financial intelligence includes emotional literacy, preventing cycles of regret. In today's world, with social media amplifying comparisons, this message resonates, applying to modern anxieties like FOMO investing or debt shame. Listeners are left empowered, ready to embrace their unique money psychology as a strength, not a flaw, fostering hope amid uncertainty.
Chapter 2. Luck and Risk. Portraying them as two sides of the same coin that shape financial destinies unpredictably. Housel uses Bill Gates as a prime example. His success wasn't just genius, but lucky access to a rare computer in high school, a chance 1 in a million had. Yet risk lurks. Gates's friend Kent Evans died young, potentially altering Microsoft's path. These tales evoke awe at fortune's whims, showing how we attribute wins to skill while blaming losses on bad luck, ignoring their interplay. Housel argues this bias distorts reality, leading to overconfidence or undue caution. Through historical lenses like the dot-com survivors versus busts, he illustrates how survivorship bias glorifies winners, burying the role of chance. Emotions run high, gratitude for unseen breaks, humility before potential pitfalls. The narrative builds suspense by questioning our own lucky breaks, a timely job, a market uptick, urging reflection on what we truly control. Deeper exploration reveals characters' inner worlds, the entrepreneur who risks it all, motivated by ambition but haunted by failure's fear, versus the conservative who misses opportunities out of risk aversion. Transformations happen when luck is acknowledged, like investors diversifying to hedge against unknowns. Housel weaves in psychology, such as hindsight bias, making past risks seem obvious, fueling regret. Symbolism emerges, luck as an invisible hand, risk as a shadow self, connecting to themes of faith and fear. Real-life ties include lottery winners' downfalls, where unearned luck amplifies poor behaviors, or survivors of recessions who rebuild with wiser humility. Emotional lows hit with stories of undeserved ruin, highs with redemptive comebacks, maintaining continuity as readers ponder their vulnerabilities. Concluding, Housel advocates worshiping processes over outcomes, since luck and risk defy prediction. This subtle lesson promotes resilience, applying to modern gigs where stability is illusory. By embracing uncertainty, we gain courage, turning potential regrets into growth. The chapter leaves a thoughtful echo, reminding that humility before fate enriches not just wallets, but lives.
Chapter 3. Never Enough. In Chapter 3, Housel tackles the insidious trap of never enough, where abundance breeds endless craving, leading to ruin. He spotlights Rajat Gupta, a $100 million earner jailed for insider trading, chasing billionaire status, and Bernie Madoff's greed-fueled scheme. These aren't outliers, they're extremes of common comparisons, amplified by social hierarchies. Housel explains how hedonic adaptation resets our baselines, making yesterday's luxuries today's necessities. Fear of falling behind drives this, rooted in evolutionary status seeking, but in money it backfires. Emotional engagement peaks with tales of families fractured by pursuit, highlighting inner voids no wealth fills. The chapter's rhythm builds tension, contrasting quiet contentment with chaotic ambition, inviting self-audit. When did enough slip away for you? Characters embody struggles. The executive sacrificing health for promotions, motivated by validation but fearing irrelevance, versus the content retiree who stopped the chase. Growth emerges in defining personal enough, perhaps through gratitude practices or value shifts. Symbolism of greed as a bottomless pit ties to themes of loss and sacrifice, where chasing more forfeits present joy. Real-world connections include consumer debt epidemics, where ads fuel dissatisfaction, or philanthropists finding purpose beyond accumulation. Emotional highs of liberation contrast lows of entrapment, weaving suspense around whether we'll break the cycle. Housel wraps with wisdom. Contentment is wealth's true multiplier, subtle yet profound. In today's influencer era, this counters FOMO, promoting redemption through simplicity. Readers depart inspired to recalibrate, turning regret into hopeful realignment.
Chapter 4. Confounding Compounding. Chapter 4 celebrates compounding's magic, where small, sustained efforts yield exponential results, often underestimated. Warren Buffett exemplifies this, building 99% of his wealth post-50 through decades of modest returns. Housel contrasts him with high flyers like Jim Simons, whose intense gains over shorter periods lag behind patience. Anecdotes from nature, like glacial shifts, mirror how tiny savings habits snowball. Emotions stir wonder at time's power, but frustration at impatience's cost. The narrative paces deliberately, building awe as math reveals miracles, challenging quick, rich myths. Buffett's character shines. Humble, optimistic, yet disciplined, his fears of disruption fuel endurance. Others falter from interruptions, panic selling or lifestyle inflation, revealing motivations tied to instant gratification. Transformation occurs in embracing longevity, like young savers prioritizing future selves. Symbolism of compounding as life's patient builder connects to hope and regret, where short-sightedness erodes potential. Real-life links include retirement shortfalls from neglected habits or successes from early starts. Emotional continuity flows from doubt to empowerment, suspense in wondering if we'll harness this force. Ultimately, Housel urges starting now, subtly teaching that compounding rewards the steadfast. In volatile times, it offers stability, redeeming past lapses through consistent action. In Chapter 5, Morgan Housel draws a sharp distinction between the exhilarating process of accumulating wealth and the more sobering challenge of maintaining it over time, likening it to a warrior who conquers territories only to face the endless task of defending them against unseen threats. Getting wealthy often involves a bold, optimistic mindset, embracing risks, leveraging opportunities, and riding the waves of economic booms, much like the entrepreneurs who struck gold during the tech bubble of the late 1990s by pouring everything into innovative startups that exploded in value. However, this same aggressive approach can become a liability when it comes to preservation, as overconfidence leads to reckless decisions that erode fortunes just as quickly as they were built. Housel illustrates this with the story of Jesse Livermore, the legendary stock trader of the early 20th century, who amassed millions through daring market bets during bull runs, but repeatedly went bankrupt because he couldn't shift to a defensive posture, his ambition blinding him to the perils of downturns. The emotional arc here is one of highs filled with the thrill of victory and lows plunged into despair from losses, emphasizing that wealth creation feeds on hope and greed, while retention demands a healthy dose of fear and humility. Characters like Livermore aren't portrayed as fools, but as complex humans driven by inner motivations, a deep-seated need for excitement and validation that clash with the realities of volatile markets. Their fears of stagnation push them toward endless risks, but without growth toward caution, they cycle through boom and bust. Symbolism emerges in wealth as a double-edged sword, sharp for cutting through obstacles, but dangerous if not sheathed properly, connecting to broader themes of sacrifice, where one must forego short-term pleasures for long-term security. In real life, this resonates with stories of lottery winners who squander their windfalls on extravagant lifestyles, unable to transition from the euphoria of gain to the discipline of guardianship, leading to regret and loss. Housel's narrative builds suspense by questioning whether we too might fall into this trap, our own inner struggles mirroring those of historical figures. The chapter's pacing slows to allow reflection, weaving in philosophical undertones about human nature's duality, our capacity for bold creation tempered by the need for vigilant protection. Ultimately, this sets up a turning point in the book's journey, urging listeners to cultivate a survival mindset that prioritizes not just growth, but endurance amid life's uncertainties. Delving deeper into the mechanics of staying wealthy, Housel emphasizes practical behaviors like frugality, diversification, and a margin of safety, portraying them as the unsung heroes in the battle against financial ruin. Warren Buffett reappears as a model of this philosophy, his enormous success not from outsmarting the market every day, but from avoiding catastrophic mistakes through paranoid conservatism. Living well below his means, holding cash reserves, and never betting the farm on any single idea. This contrasts sharply with high flyers who leverage debt to amplify gains, only to be wiped out when leverage turns against them in recessions, evoking emotional lows of panic and helplessness. Buffett's personality is explored in depth, a blend of optimism about America's long-term prospects with a deep fear of interruption. His growth comes from decades of learning from others' failures, transforming potential arrogance into humble restraint. Motivations here tie to a profound respect for time and compounding, where staying in the game outweighs flashy wins. Inner conflicts arise for characters who achieve wealth young, their initial drive for status evolving into anxiety over preservation, often leading to isolation as they withdraw from risks that once defined them. Housel subtly reveals hidden meanings, such as how societal pressure to keep up exacerbates this tension, symbolizing wealth as a fragile ecosystem that thrives on balance rather than excess. Connecting to real-life experiences of love and loss, he shows how neglecting retention can destroy families, divorces triggered by financial stress, or inheritances lost to poor habits, highlighting the courage required to say no to temptations. The narrative flows with cinematic vividness, painting scenes of boardrooms where bold decisions are made, and quiet evenings where savers count their blessings. Emotional continuity is maintained through contrasts. The rush of getting wealthy gives way to the steady rhythm of staying so, building toward a realization that true mastery lies in harmony between the two. This chapter reinforces the book's overarching message that behavior trumps knowledge, leaving listeners with a sense of empowerment to audit their own approaches. By the chapter's conclusion, Housel offers a subtle moral through these interwoven stories. Longevity and wealth demands a shift from offense to defense, a lesson that applies beyond finance to life's broader pursuits. He encourages defining success not by peaks of accumulation, but by valleys of resilience, where humility acts as the ultimate safeguard. In modern contexts, this speaks to gig workers facing unpredictable incomes or retirees navigating inflation, providing a roadmap for redemption after past excesses.
In Chapter 6, Morgan Housel unveils the power of tails, those rare outlier events that disproportionately shape outcomes in investing and beyond. Much like how a single home run can define a baseball player's career amid countless strikes. He explains that in fields like venture capital, the vast majority of investments flop spectacularly. Perhaps 99% yield nothing, but a tiny fraction, the tail successes, like an early bet on Amazon or Google, generate exponential returns that more than compensate for all the losses, turning the overall portfolio into a winner. This isn't mere gambling. It's a fundamental truth about skewed distributions in life, where averages mislead because extremes dominate. Housel draws on vivid historical anecdotes, such as the film industry, where most movies bomb at the box office, but blockbusters like Star Wars subsidize the entire studio, evoking a sense of awe at how unpredictability rewards the persistent. Emotional highs pulse with the thrill of potential jackpots, while lows sink into the frustration of repeated failures, building narrative tension around the gamble of participation. Characters emerge as resilient pioneers. The venture capitalist who endures portfolio wipeouts, motivated by visionary optimism but haunted by fears of total ruin, their inner struggles pitting patience against doubt. Growth occurs in those who broaden their bets, diversifying to capture more tails without betting everything on one. Symbolism of tails as life's hidden lotteries connects to themes of luck and redemption, where embracing uncertainty redeems the drudgery of averages. In real life, this mirrors startup founders who pivot through bankruptcies, their sacrifices fueling hope for that breakthrough, underscoring the courage to stay in the game. Housel's storytelling heightens suspense by revealing survivorship bias. We celebrate Disney's triumphs, but forget the thousands of failed animators, urging listeners to question glorified success stories. The chapter's pacing alternates between broad statistical insights and personal tales, weaving emotional continuity from despair in the mundane to triumph in the exceptional. This pivotal insight shifts the book's arc, emphasizing that financial wisdom lies in positioning for rare upsides while surviving the downs. Delving deeper,
Housel extends tales to stock markets and personal endeavors, noting how a handful of superstar stocks like Apple or Tesla drive the S&P 500's long-term gains, while most companies languish or fail, illustrating how missing those few can doom a portfolio to mediocrity. He contrasts this with linear professions like dentistry, where steady effort yields predictable results, highlighting finance's inherent asymmetry. Emotional depth arises from characters' transformations. The investor who starts chasing hot tips but learns through crashes to index broadly, their motivations evolving from greed to pragmatic humility. Fears of missing out clash with risks of overconcentration. Inner conflicts resolved by accepting that no one predicts tales reliably. Hidden meanings surface in tales as metaphors for life's black swans, unexpected events like pandemics or inventions that reshape fortunes, symbolizing the interplay of effort and fate. Connecting to themes of fear and hope, Housel shows how over-optimism leads to regret when tales turn negative, as in market bubbles bursting. Real-world ties include artists producing vast works, knowing most will flop, but one viral hit redeems all, evoking loss when persistence wanes. The narrative builds cinematic vividness with scenes of boardroom bets and quiet reflections on what-ifs, maintaining suspense in the unknown. Pacing allows immersion, each example peeling layers to reveal human vulnerability. By conclusion, Housel advocates strategies that harness tales, stay diversified, avoid ruin, and play long enough, a subtle moral of endurance over genius, applying to modern pursuits like content creation in algorithm-driven worlds, offering redemption for past narrow focuses through broader horizons.
Chapter 7. Freedom. Chapter 7 elevates money's role to its noblest purpose, granting freedom, the priceless ability to dictate your time and choices, portrayed as a liberating escape from life's invisible chains. Housel cites research showing that control over one's schedule correlates more with happiness than sheer wealth, contrasting stressed millionaires locked in high-stakes jobs with modest savers who achieve financial independence to pursue hobbies, family, or philanthropy. This isn't about idleness, it's about options. Quitting a toxic boss, traveling spontaneously, or weathering economic storms without desperation. Characters come alive. The corporate climber in golden handcuffs, earning lavishly but enslaved by lifestyle inflation, their motivations rooted in security but tormented by fears of irrelevance in retirement. Emotional highs soar with visions of unchained days. Lows plumb the regret of burned-out lives. Inner struggles balance ambition with well-being, growth in redefining wealth around autonomy rather than accumulation. Symbolism of money as a freedom key unlocks themes of hope and sacrifice, where foregoing luxuries today buys joy tomorrow. In real life, this resonates with early retirees in the FIRE movement, their stories of courage inspiring yet cautionary against undersaving. Housel builds suspense through contrasts, lavish prisons versus simple liberations, drawing listeners to reflect on their own constraints, perhaps a demanding career or debt burden. Pacing is reflective, allowing emotional immersion in these human quests for meaning. Further, Housel critiques societal traps that erode freedom, like consumerism's endless treadmill, where ads promise fulfillment but deliver dependence, backed by data on happiness flatlining beyond basic comforts. He explores historical contexts, such as post-Depression thrift enabling later freedoms versus modern gig economies eroding stability. Transformations highlight the high earner who suffers a health scare and pivots to part-time work, fears of scarcity evolving to gratitude for time. Motivations tied to deeper yearnings for purpose,
conflicts between external success and internal peace resolved through intentional saving. Hidden meanings portray freedom as invisible wealth, more potent than visible assets. Connecting to love and loss, relationships flourish when time is abundant, strained by work's demands. Real-world examples include parents choosing flexible jobs over promotions, evoking redemption after years of absence. Narrative vividness paints scenes of sunlit mornings free from alarms, sustaining tension in the pursuit. Housel closes urging proactive saving for options, a moral of intentionality that counters today's hustle culture, redeeming overspent pasts through reclaimed lives.
Chapter 8. The Man in the Car Paradox. In Chapter 8, Housel introduces the man in the car paradox, a witty revelation that admiring a luxury vehicle isn't about envying its owner, but imagining yourself in it, exposing how status symbols attract self-projection rather than genuine respect. He argues flashy displays often fail their intent, as people covet the item for their fantasies, not the person's character, leading to superficial interactions. This taps into psychology's social signaling, where evolutionary needs for hierarchy manifest in wasteful spending. Examples illustrate the new millionaire splurging on a Ferrari to signal success, only to realize passerbys dream of driving it themselves, evoking irony-laced emotional lows amid intended highs. Characters embody this. Status chasers from modest roots, driven by validation fears, their inner turmoil between showmanship and authenticity unresolved until humility intervenes. Growth comes in shifting to understated living, motivations evolving to intrinsic worth. Symbolism of the car as a vain mirror reflects themes of truth and regret, where illusions of admiration sacrifice real connections. In real life, social media amplifies this, with influencers gaining likes but not loyalty, highlighting courage to be unshowy. Suspense builds in ironic outcomes, pacing humorous yet probing. Deeper, Housel extends to all ostentation, watches, homes, vacations, contrasting with figures like Buffett, whose modesty earns true esteem through wisdom, not wealth. Emotional shifts from envy to insight underscore transformations. The flaunter learning isolation, pivoting to generosity. Hidden meanings critique societal facades, symbolizing emptiness in external validation. Ties to loss include strained friendships over jealousy, hope in authentic bonds. Real-world, workplace rivalries fueled by displays. Narrative contrasts heighten engagement. Concluding, Housel advises earning respect via actions, a lesson in humility, countering image obsessions, promoting redemption through genuine living.
Chapter 10. Save Money. In Chapter 10, saving emerges as finance's superpower, independent of income. A high saver on low pay outstrips low savers on high, creating buffers like fortresses. Housel stresses it's about margins, enabling freedom via options. Barriers like impulses addressed through automation. Emotional security highs, regret lows. Characters: disciplined automators fearing instability versus impulsive cyclers. Growth in habits, struggles now versus later. Symbolism: savings as future seeds, faith, hope. Real life: emergencies averted. Suspense in growth reveals, pacing motivational. Deeper, mindset shifts prioritize future self, countering ads. Historical thrift examples. Transformations, rock bottom rebuilds. Hidden, control in chaos. Ties, sacrifice redeems. Real world, funds enabling dreams. Inspire, anecdotes. Concluding, simplicity empowers, applicable to volatility, fostering action. Chapter 11. Reasonable, greater than rational. Chapter 11 champions reasonable over pure rational choices, acknowledging emotions in decisions, like Markowitz's intuitive portfolio despite his theories. Housel shows math ignores regret, leading to human failures. Emotional peace highs, rigidity lows. Characters, optimizers crashing, balancing head-heart. Growth in harmony. Symbolism, reason as a blend, balance. Real life, sleepless risks, suspense in mismatches, pacing reflective. Further, biases like loss aversion explored, with examples favoring sleep over max returns. Transformations, data-driven to intuitive, hidden, emotions as guides. Connections, fear, courage. Real world, behavioral pitfalls. Vivid scenarios engage. Housel advises honoring feelings, a lesson for finance, redeeming extremes.
Chapter 12. Surprise. As our journey through the psychology of money deepens, Chapter 12 jolts us with the inevitability of surprises, those unforeseen twists in history that shatter our assumptions and reshape financial landscapes like sudden storms upending calm seas. Morgan Housel reminds us that the past is an incomplete guide filled with events no one predicted. Think of the 9/11 attacks that triggered global recessions, or the housing bubbles burst in 2008, events that seemed obvious in hindsight but blindsided experts at the time. These surprises aren't anomalies, they're the norm in a complex world where interconnected systems breed chaos, from pandemics halting economies to technological breakthroughs like the internet exploding markets overnight. Emotional shocks ripple through, the investor caught off guard by a crash, their confidence crumbling into fear, motivations rooted in stability clashing with reality's volatility. Characters embody this, the forecaster who stakes everything on patterns only to face ruin when anomalies strike, their inner struggles between control and acceptance leading to growth in humility. Symbolism of surprises as life's wildcards echoes themes of uncertainty and courage, where clinging to predictions symbolizes hubris, while adaptability offers redemption. In real life, this connects to personal pivots during crises, like job losses forcing reinvention, evoking regret for overconfidence, and hope in resilience. Housel builds suspense by layering historical what-ifs, drawing listeners into the tension of the unknown, pacing the narrative to mirror the abruptness of change itself. The chapter's emotional flow transitions from complacency to vigilance, reinforcing the book's arc that wisdom lies in expecting the unexpected. Hidden meanings reveal history as a deceptive teacher, urging us to plan with flexibility rather than rigidity. As stories unfold, we see turning points where surprises forge stronger paths, maintaining continuity in our exploration of human frailty amid fortune's whims. Delving into the mechanics of these shocks, Housel explores how survivorship bias and hindsight distort our views, making us over-extrapolate from recent calm while ignoring buried turbulence, much like sailors navigating by stars that shift without warning. He cites examples from wars to inventions, showing how post-World War II prosperity surprised a depression-scarred generation, breeding optimism that later fueled bubbles. Emotional depths plunge into the anxiety of unpredictability, highs emerging in the opportunities surprises create for those who adapt. Characters transform,
the rigid planner humbled by a market flip, fears of loss evolving into innovative strategies, their motivations shifting from certainty to curiosity. Inner conflicts arise between denial and embrace, resolved through broader historical perspective. Symbolism deepens with surprises as catalysts for evolution, tying to themes of faith amid fear, where blind spots symbolize unheeded lessons. Real-world ties include modern disruptions like AI job shifts or climate impacts on investments, underscoring sacrifice in preparation and joy in serendipity. The narrative weaves suspense through hypothetical futures. What if the next surprise upends your portfolio? Pacing allows reflection, each anecdote building toward a realization that humility before history prevents repeated regrets. This chapter pivots the story toward practical defenses, linking emotional continuity from earlier luck and risk discussions to forthcoming strategies for endurance.
Chapter 13. Room for Error. Building on the unpredictability of surprises, Chapter 13 advocates for room for error, those essential buffers that act as safety nets in the high-wire act of financial planning, ensuring survival when the unexpected strikes. Housel emphasizes conservative assumptions, planning for 1% returns instead of 8%, to absorb shocks like recessions or personal emergencies, drawing from engineering, where bridges are overbuilt for unseen stresses. This isn't pessimism, it's prudence, as seen with Scott Neeson's story, the Hollywood executive who left luxury for Cambodian philanthropy, discovering that margins allow bold life changes without catastrophe. Emotional relief floods in after near misses, contrasted by the terror of tightropes without nets, highs of security clashing with lows of vulnerability. Characters illustrate the over-leveraged trader wiped out by a minor dip, motivated by greed but haunted by ruin's fear. Their growth in adding cushions transforms impulsiveness to thoughtfulness. Inner struggles pit ambition against caution, resolved in balanced portfolios. Symbolism of margins as breathing space connects to themes of prudence and sacrifice, where skimping symbolizes short-sighted risk, while buffers offer redemption from past overreaches. In real life, this resonates with emergency funds averting foreclosures or diversified investments weathering crashes, evoking courage in restraint. Housel heightens suspense with tales of close calls, like businesses surviving pandemics through cash reserves, pacing to build tension around potential pitfalls. The narrative maintains flow, linking surprises chaos to error rooms as antidotes, weaving emotional continuity through human tales of foresight. Exploring further, Housel delves into psychological barriers to margins, like optimism bias, leading to underestimation of risks, illustrated by historical overborrowing before crises, where death's illusion of growth crumbles under pressure. He contrasts frugal savers who thrive with aggressive borrowers who falter, showing how skin in the game sharpens decisions. Emotional shifts from paranoia to preparedness underscore transformations, the novice investor learning from losses to incorporate slack, fears evolving to empowered vigilance, motivations tied to long-term peace, conflicts between maximization and safety settled in hybrid approaches. Hidden meanings portray error rooms as humility's embodiment, tying to truth in acknowledging fallibility. Real-world applications include retirement planning with conservative withdrawals or businesses with rainy day funds, highlighting loss when ignored and hope in implementation. Suspense builds in scenarios of what could go wrong, pacing reflective to foster introspection. This chapter advances the story's arc toward adaptive behaviors, ensuring consistency in themes of behavioral mastery over mere tactics.
Chapter 14. You'll Change. As buffers provide stability amid surprises,
Chapter 14 confronts the personal evolution that demands flexible planning, reminding us that you'll change, your desires, risks, and priorities shifting like seasons over a lifetime. Housel warns against locking in rigid goals, as the 20-year-old's ambition for wealth may morph into the 50-year-old's craving for time with family or health pursuits, illustrated by endowments that outlive founders' intents, leading to misaligned legacies. This isn't inconstancy, it's growth, as life events like marriages, children, or illnesses reshape values. Emotional flow rides highs of self-discovery and lows of outdated regrets. The thrill of new passions contrast entrapment in old plans. Characters evolve. The young saver fixated on accumulation, motivated by security, but later yearning for experiences. Their inner turmoil between consistency and adaptation leading to pivots like early retirement. Fears of betrayal to past selves clash with hopes for fulfillment, growth in embracing fluidity. Symbolism of change as natural cycles ties to themes of redemption and hope. Where static plans symbolize stagnation, flexible ones offer liberation. In real life, this mirrors midlife career switches or post-crisis value shifts, underscoring courage in reevaluation. Housel builds suspense through life stage vignettes, pacing to mirror gradual transformations, maintaining narrative continuity from error margins to personal dynamism. Deeper insights reveal how societal norms ignore this mutability, with financial advice often assuming static selves, leading to products like annuities that constrain future options. Housel uses data on happiness trajectories, showing peaks in experiences over possessions with age. Transformations shine, rigid accumulators loosening for joy, motivations shifting from ego to legacy. Hidden meanings in change as opportunity's door connect to faith in the unknown. Real-world ties include regretful empty nesters or fulfilled minimalists, evoking loss in resistance and joy in flow. Suspense lingers in future selves' mysteries, pacing contemplative. This chapter propels the story toward accepting costs and differences, weaving emotional threads of growth.
Chapter 15. Nothing's free. With personal changes demanding adaptability, Chapter 15 asserts that nothing's free, every financial gain exacting a hidden price, like market returns requiring tolerance for volatility's wild swings. Housel portrays ups as fees for entry, where selling during dips pays with forfeited compounding, as in the investor who panics in crashes, missing rebounds. This isn't punishment, it's the system's balance, ensuring only the enduring profit. Emotional perseverance builds amid doubt's lows, highs in long-term triumphs. Characters endure, the novice trader fleeing turbulence, motivated by safety but learning through losses, fears evolving to resilience. Inner conflicts between comfort and reward resolve in staying power. Symbolism of fees as character tests ties to themes of truth and sacrifice, where avoidance symbolizes weakness, payment, redemption. In real life, this echoes buy and hold successes versus timing failures, highlighting courage and discomfort. Suspense mounts in market roller coasters, pacing resilient to echo endurance. Narrative flow connects change's fluidity to cost acceptance, sustaining emotional continuity. Further, Housel examines non-monetary tolls like time or stress in pursuits, contrasting quick schemes illusions with steady paths realities. Transformations, impulsives building tolerance, motivations to patience. Hidden meanings, acceptance as maturity's mark. Real world, crashes as tuition for wisdom. Ties to regret in evasion,
hope in embrace, suspense in potential pains, pacing motivational. This advances towards interpersonal dynamics, maintaining the story's behavioral focus.
Chapter 16, You and Me, where differing time horizons, short-term speculators versus long-term investors, create market mismatches, inflating bubbles that burst on the patient. Housel depicts frenzies like dot-com mania, where day traders' greed drives prices skyward, misleading buy-and holders into overvaluation. This isn't malice, it's perspective clash, short views chasing quick wins while long ones seek compounding. Emotional caution rises amid temptation's lows, highs in discernment. Characters contrast, herd-following speculators motivated by FOMO but crashing, versus steadfast savers enduring. Inner struggles pit excitement against discipline, growth in alignment. Symbolism of crowds as seductive sirens ties to wisdom and isolation, short horizons symbolizing illusion. In real life, this mirrors crypto booms or stock panics, underscoring humility in crowds. Suspense builds in bubble inflations, pacing warning to heightened stakes. Flow links costs to social dynamics, emotional threads of prudence persisting. Deeper, Housel analyzes how media amplifies short-term noise, distorting long views. Transformations, trend chasers to independence. Hidden, patience's quiet edge. Real world, frenzy's aftermaths. Ties to greed's regret, humility's redemption. Suspense in misalignments, pacing analytical. This transitions to pessimism's allure, consistent in behavioral critiques.
Chapter 17, The Seduction of Pessimism. From Horizon Clashes emerges Chapter 17's critique of the seduction of pessimism, where negativity captivates louder than optimism, despite markets climbing 17,000-fold amid endless crises. Housel explains psychology's threat bias, making doomsday narratives compelling while progress whispers. This skews decisions, as pessimists sell low, missing gains. Emotional hope counters noise's lows, highs in balanced views. Characters, fixated naysayers, motivated by caution but blinded, transforming to realists. Inner conflicts between fear and faith resolve in evidence. Symbolism of slow wins as resilient victories ties to resilience. In real life, gains despite wars or recessions highlight this. Suspense in bias battles, pacing uplifting to inspire. Narrative maintains flow from social influences to mindset traps, emotional continuity in overcoming distortions. Further, Housel contrasts media's alarmism with historical uptrends. Transformations, negative to nuanced. Hidden, optimism's compounding. Real world, crises overcome. Ties to fear's grip, faith's release. Suspense in overlooked progress, pacing revelatory. This leads to belief vulnerabilities, story's arc toward critical thinking.
Chapter 18, When You'll Believe Anything. Pessimism's pull sets up Chapter 18's warning, When You'll Believe Anything, where compelling stories override facts, fueling bubbles like the housing crisis, where prices always rise narratives, ignored warnings. Housel dissects biases, making tales seductive, especially in uncertainty. Emotional illusions crash to reality's lows, highs in skepticism. Characters, gullible investors ruined, motivated by hope but learning doubt. Inner struggles between comfort and scrutiny, growth in questioning. Symbolism of stories as enchanting mirages, ties to truth. In real life, scams or manias illustrate this. Suspense in deceptions unraveling, pacing critical to build awareness. Flow connects mindset seductions to narrative traps, emotional threads of wisdom culminating. Deeper, confirmation bias reinforces delusions. Transformations, believers to analysts. Hidden, tales manipulative power. Real world, burst bubbles lessons. Ties to greed's blindness, regrets clarity. Suspense in hidden flaws, pacing probing. This primes synthesis, maintaining story's reflective climax.
Chapter 19. All Together Now. As the threads of our financial odyssey weave toward unity, Chapter 19, All Together Now, gathers the book's lessons into a harmonious tapestry, reminding us that mastering money isn't about isolated tactics, but integrating behavior, humility, and patience into a cohesive whole. Morgan Housel recaps with gentle warmth, revisiting contrasts like Ronald Read's Quiet Fortune versus Richard Fuscone's Fall, now seen through lenses of luck, compounding, and emotional restraint. This synthesis isn't a checklist, it's a philosophy, where understanding no one's crazy fosters empathy, acknowledging luck tempers ego, and defining enough quells greed. Emotional integration swells with highs of clarity, lows of overlooked pitfalls, the narrative culminating in empowerment. Characters from earlier tales re-emerge transformed, the impulsive spender embracing savings, motivated by freedom's call, their inner journeys from fear to wisdom, illustrating growth's arc. Symbolism of the tapestry represents interconnected themes, each strand vital, alone weak, but together unbreakable, tying to redemption where fragmented habits redeem into holistic success. In real life, this applies to everyday decisions, like budgeting amid inflation or investing through volatility, evoking hope in behavioral mastery. Housel builds suspense in the recap, pacing to reveal how pieces fit, maintaining continuity from individual insights to collective wisdom. Hidden meanings underscore money as a mirror of self, urging reflection on personal weaves. The chapter's flow bridges the book's body to its reflective close, leaving us poised for historical context. Delving into application, Housel urges focusing on controllable behaviors, save consistently, stay humble, endure volatility over unpredictable outcomes, illustrated by Buffett's lifelong adherence yielding outsized results. Emotional resonance peaks in realizing these aren't elite secrets, but accessible truths, transforming doubt into action. Transformations embody scattered learners becoming integrated stewards, motivations aligning with long-term peace. Hidden interconnections highlight compounding's boost from margins, luck's humility from surprises. Real-world ties include holistic plans weathering life changes, underscoring sacrifices' rewards. Suspense lingers in what if integrations fail, pacing motivational. This chapter crowns the narrative, setting up the postscript's origins. In the immersive afterglow, the postscript traces America's money mindset through historical waves, from Depression thrift forging cautious savers to post-World War II booms birthing optimistic spenders, painting a generational saga of evolving attitudes.
Housel chronicles shifts, scarcity's scars yielding to abundance's illusions, inflation's 1970s fears clashing with tech-era exuberance, each era imprinting behaviors we carry today. This isn't dry history, it's a human drama, where grandparents' hoarding echoes in our emergency funds, while parents' leverage warns of bubbles. Emotional understanding deepens with highs of inherited wisdom, lows of generational disconnects, fostering compassion. Characters represent eras, depression survivors motivated by survival, their fears shaping frugal legacies versus boom babies chasing growth, inner conflicts between caution and opportunity leading to hybrid mindsets. Symbolism of history as invisible baggage ties to empathy and redemption, where understanding roots frees us from cycles. In real life, this explains modern consumerism, debt amid plenty, savings amid uncertainty, evoking reflection on personal heritages. Housel builds suspense in chronological reveals, pacing to connect past to present, maintaining the book's emotional arc of self-awareness. Hidden meanings reveal cultural psychology as a shared story, urging us to question inherited craziness. Exploring implications, Housel connects these evolutions to today's challenges, like gig economy instability echoing past volatilities, encouraging tailored adaptations over blind adherence. Transformations shine, inherited biases evolving to conscious choices, motivations to balance, hidden history's lessons as tools for future. Real-world, pandemic thrift reviving old habits, ties to regret in unexamined patterns, hope in informed shifts, suspense in ongoing evolutions, pacing insightful. This closes the book, leaving lasting resonance. As our immersive voyage through the psychology of money draws to a poignant close, imagine yourself standing at the crossroads of your own financial story. The echoes of Ronald Read's quiet wisdom and Warren Buffett's enduring patience whispering guidance amid the clamor of modern temptations. You've journeyed through the highs of compounding miracles, the lows of greed's pitfalls, and the redemptive turns where humility transforms regret into resilience. Now it's time to step beyond the pages. Let this book be your catalyst, not just a read, but a revolution in how you dance with dollars. Start small. Audit your enough. Automate a savings habit, or diversify to capture those elusive tails. Embrace the messy humanity of money, for in its psychology lies your path to freedom and peace. But tell me, dear listener, as you reflect on your own tales of luck, risk, and desire, what one lesson from this book will you weave into your life today, and how might it rewrite your ending?